One of disbelief, a sense of helplessness for me.
Effort. It's taken effort. Nothing has come easy.
Flexibility and adaptability.
This whole concept of rebirth is starting to appear.
We were made for connection, how humans are hardwired for connection.
To be patient and loving.
Experiencing God's promises.
I think thankful. With everything that went on, it could have been a lot rougher for my family, and it wasn't. So I think actually thankful.
Rest.
The sudden social isolation that we all had, people could see others through platforms such as Zoom, yet it wasn't the same as just being in person.
Trying to overcome, say, any fear of what's happening and the unknown. It's a challenge to understand, what is safe and what is not.
Not being able to visit my parents. Actually, the last year they've been really weak and fragile.
The isolation piece, just not being able to celebrate life's markers like birthdays and anniversaries and babies being born.
Going through life's deepest joys, but also experiencing some really significant losses, and then not being able to be surrounded by community as we would have hoped due to just lockdowns and distance.
Being cut off from community, and on all levels. So church community, of course, but gym community, work community. You're amazed and surprised at how many different levels that you're connected to people, and then the effect that happens when you lose that.
Has been the lack of schedule and consistency. You never know what the next week might look at.
The uncertainty of so much, constant change of everything week to week, personally, but also within the church. And social norms have been really hard during this time.
There were people that I knew or that my friends had as relatives that passed away during that time, and they were not able to be with them in their final months or as they passed.
Abby and I were in a long distance engagement, and she came out here to San Diego, and then that was when COVID happened, and she never left. And that was one of the best gifts. And then I think just on that of thriving in the midst of a time where you felt like you should just be surviving.
Really being able to slow down in a sort of physical sense, and then just slowing my mind down, having more space to breathe and to rest.
It's also a break in your natural rhythms, right, or your normal rhythms. And I found that was a chance for God to help point out to me a little perspective, what's really important, what really matters. It was a step back from the normal to see maybe habits I had established that I'm glad to break, and to create some new ones, a little more space. So margin is a good word.
Not taking for granted time with my wife.
I just feel like people have really turned to their creative sides to really live in this past season, whether it be within the church or within jobs and within our communities.
The city closed all of the pools, and we like to go and do our water fitness. Our 90-year-old widower, next door neighbor, who we've lived next to him over 30 years, he opened up his pool to us. That gave us an opportunity to actually get to know him. Unexpectedly, he passed away this year of natural causes. And I would have never had that opportunity to get to really know him except for this whole experience that we've all shared.
Most importantly, I think we got to meet our neighbors. Neighbors who've lived on our street for 25 years, and we've been there for 5 years. So it was really nice having to meet one of my neighbors who've lost a husband last year. Just kind of bonding together I think that was a gift.
It certainly helped me prioritize, and some things were just cut out of my life. So that's why it simplified my life a lot. It forced me to be really creative in how I chose to celebrate the good times with people. And we couldn't do it in a group like we normally did, but people found really creative ways, whether it was decorating a car, or doing drive-by celebrations. I learned how to use Zoom.
Despite being part of this whole digital generation, my technology skills have always been a little bit poor, so this was a great opportunity to improve on that. I think that during this time we've needed God the most. In just everyday life, Just being able to like be outside now, just like feel the wind, just like know that he's there in his presence. I think that's really good of him, and that makes me really happy.
I think everyone felt very isolated, but I never felt isolated from God. I always felt that he was right there with me, and in the times that I felt lonely, he was always there. I just really felt his presence, and so I feel like it was a wonderful time to just know that God never leaves us or forsakes us.
God's provision. I've worked from home for 10 years. So for me, it was the same. God protected us, watched over my job. I think it was a challenge to really feel God watching the services over TV. So it's nice to be back. It was a challenge to really feel like you're worshiping from afar.
During the pandemic, people have been stripped of so many things, in their lives at different levels. As I talk to clients, I see, brokenness in their lives, breakups in their marriages, children getting taken away from their homes, and it's really painful to see all that. And in the midst of that, it's really nice to see that God is so faithful.
My own life and my family's life. My mom got a cancer diagnosis in December of 2020, and as much as it was one more thing and really difficult, it's also, I think, just another opportunity to trust him, to know that he was going to take care of us, and he did.
Jesus is near to the brokenhearted and close to his children.
The ability to establish some of those new routines, groups that I might not have been in because it would have been too hard, but now that we can do it because it's a Zoom, and learning that way. He's faithful, he's with you, and it's just sometimes amazing how things come together.
Really felt Jesus' commitment to the local church, that the building doesn't define who we are as a faith and as a people and as a community.
The local church has been a really big picture of the faithfulness of God in this. Just seeing the way that people have been giving to the church to be able to then give to the community.
The importance of community and loving others despite our differences, and the love that Jesus wants us to have for each other.
I think it's invited me to be a more just thoughtful of where people are compared to where I think they should be or where I think they are. I think it's really just helped me evaluate putting myself in other people's shoes, just kind of seeing what the Lord's doing personally in people rather than just what I think he's doing.
Being intentional and really diving back in. I'm kind of excited to get my hands dirty again.
I think I just discovered how important relationship is. It's better to win a relationship than to win an argument.
I sense Jesus inviting me to connect with him, connect with people, connect with new people, believers, unbelievers, and create new community.
Recently I did join the kids ministry, and I'm excited to serve because that's going to be a whole new experience for me. I think that the social isolation has caused more people to be like, oh, I want to see people now, which is crazy because I've always been kind of introverted, I would say. So this is definitely a change, and it's a gift in the same.
I think in a word, engage, time to take action, engage, and that's exciting.
I think to live and act in expectation of his faithful promises.
Well, he's obviously telling me to cling on to him, to trust him, even in the midst of troubles. It's important that we experience his peace, the peace that passeth all understanding. So, because what is peace? Peace is not absence of trouble, but it's really the presence of God in the midst of trouble.